Greetings and welcome to Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation. To our members, friends, and everyone joining us in our virtual congregation on YouTube today.
Hello, I'm the Reverend Robin Landerman Zucker, minister of this congregation, and I will be hosting our virtual recorded service for today, August 16th, 2020, with music from Rumi Wood, Rebecca Prisnick, and members of our choir. Today's service is generously sponsored by UU Justice Arizona, and you can learn more about them and join their programs and efforts, their important work, at www.uujaz.org. Our guest worship leader is Sir Alex Kapitan with a message entitled A Radical Welcome. Alex is a lay community minister, co-leader of the Transforming Hearts Collective, and co-creator of the online course Transgender Inclusion in Congregations. In this vein, Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation is spiritually open and intentionally inclusive. Whoever you are and whomever you love, you are always welcome here. Our members and friends bring many viewpoints, theologies, and ideas to our door, and here we trust you will find a common desire for meaningful community and spiritual growth, and for relevant religious exploration in a framework with very flexible borders. Membership in this congregation is open to anyone who chooses to walk with us in the spirit of love, the search for truth, and the pursuit of justice. As I light the chalice, the symbol of our free faith, please light your own chalice or candle at home and recite the unison words found on your screen. We light this chalice with a flame that draws us together. With this flame, we cut through the darkness of our isolation, and we are warmed by the fires of our inner connection. The mission and covenant of Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation express our values and our vision of ourselves as a gathered community here in our sanctuary or our virtual sanctuary, and also in the world. Please recite it with me. The words will appear on your screen. The mission of Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation is to be a welcoming community that embraces diverse thought and belief and builds a just, peaceful, and compassionate world. Love is the spirit of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in kindness. Thus do we covenant. And now let's welcome Alex Kapitan to our virtual sanctuary.
Good morning and welcome again, one and all. I'm so delighted to be with you this morning, and I'm so thankful to UU Justice Arizona for the invitation to be part of this special worship service. Today, here in this time, when we are creating a virtual sacred space together, when we are gathering from different physical, spiritual, emotional, and ancestral locations, it feels important to locate myself and invite you to reflect on your location as well. I'm joining you today from my home near the Great Falls. I live where the river the Abenaki peoples call Quinnitigak, or Long River, meets the Mohawk Trail, in the place called Peskiamskut by the Pecumtuck Nation, and Greenfield, Massachusetts by white settlers, not far from the invisible corner where Massachusetts, Vermont, and New Hampshire meet. My ancestors have lived in this river valley and in eastern Massachusetts and in German colonized Wisconsin farmland and in the steel mills of Ohio, and before that, Germany, Hungary, and England. Their names were Kapitania, Bergdorf, Daniel, Pierce, Orange. I come from preachers and farmers and engineers and artists and teachers. I have other ancestors and elders who have made it possible for me to be here today, too. As a queer and genderqueer person, I would not be here without generations of people before me who resisted oppressive norms of gender and sexuality and imagined a different reality into being. Their names were and are Feinberg, Bornstein, Murray, Johnson, Rivera, de la Verre, Kramer. And finally, I follow in the path of white anti racism organizers, educators, and activists Braden, Liuzo, Reeb, Okun, Spade. I want to invite you to take a moment and join me in speaking your ancestors and elders into this space. The people, those living and those who have passed on, who forged a path that has made your life possible. Say their names, remain muted, but speak their names into the space and type their names into the chat box as well if that feels good to you. Thank you for that. Feel the power of all those souls that have brought each of us to this place. We are part of a larger fabric, held in a larger web and purpose. Let us worship together.
Please join me in singing Building a New Way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. Hate and greed and jealousy. We are working to be free. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. Start with love, that is the key. We can feed our every need. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these our world would die. Peace and freedom is our cry.
Alex has a touchstone tale for us this morning. It is an original story entitled The Bat.
So I have a story for you this morning, and it's called The Story of Bat, and I wrote it myself. You ready? All right, here we go. Once upon a time, a long, long time ago, in a faraway land, a terrible fight broke out between the mammals and the birds. Now, as you might know, Mammals are all the animals that are furry and have teeth and carry their babies inside them until they're born. And birds are all the animals that can fly and have beaks or bills and lay eggs in nests, right? You see, the mammals didn't trust the birds, and the birds didn't trust the mammals. They were just so different from one another that they didn't understand each other. The mammals didn't know what it was like to see the world from way up above, and the birds didn't know what it was like to be covered in fur instead of fluffy feathers. So the birds and the mammals started to fight. But there was one animal who didn't understand the fighting. It was Bat. Now, Bat couldn't pick a side in the fight because Bat felt like she was a little of both. After all, bats are furry and have teeth, yet they also have wings and can fly. Bat was friends with both birds and mammals. She would go flying with her bird friends and snuggle with her furry mammal friends. When the fight broke out, Bat was really sad. She went to both the birds and the mammals and begged them to stop the violence. "Don't you see?" she said to the other animals. "You're not that different from each other. We all feel love and hunger and pain. Look at me," she said. "I can fly, yet I'm also furry. I'm proof that there's no real divide between mammal and bird." But the other animals wouldn't listen. They had been told all their lives that birds and mammals had nothing in common. They had been taught to fear one another. "Pick a side and stay there," Tiger said at the mammals' camp. "Stop pretending to be something you're not. What are you really?" Eagle screeched the next day at the birds' camp. "I am both and neither," Bat said. But that was inconceivable to the other animals. Even her bird and mammal friends laughed in Bat's face, made fun of her, pushed her aside, and kept fighting each other. At first, Bat was too sad to do anything more. But then she realized there were other animals like her, animals that were different from the others. Who do you think she went and found? She went and found Platypus. Platypus is amazing. Platypus has a bill like a bird and lays eggs like a bird, right? But platypus is also furry and has no wings like a mammal. Bat also found flying squirrel, who's furry yet flies through the air. Bat, platypus, and flying squirrel went and found ostrich and penguin and kiwi, who are birds that can't fly, so they weren't part of the fighting. Now, there were more animals, look at them all, who could help the mammals and the birds understand that not all birds are the same, right? And not all mammals are the same, and they should stop fighting and get to know each other better. It was hard, but the other animals finally listened and stopped fighting. They started realizing how amazing it was that there were so many differences among them, that birds can be as small as tiny hummingbird or as massive as albatross. And mammals can have tusks like elephant or the softest fur like bunny. And there were also some ways that some birds and mammals were more similar to each other than to their own kind. Owl and hedgehog realized they both like staying awake at night. And loon and otter realized they both loved the water. Eventually, everyone forgot that it had been Bat, who was the bravest one of all and had stopped the fighting. And that was just fine with Bat. What mattered most to her was that all the animals were at peace and that she had made a whole bunch of new friends like her who were different in the coolest ways. The end.
Now is the time in our service when congregants are invited to share a personal joy or sorrow in the supportive fellowship of this community. And although I didn't receive any specific joys and sorrows this week, there are many that we share. First, I will drop this first stone in the water, representing that whatever affects one of us affects us all like ripples in a stream. And this first stone, as has been in many weeks, is for all of us who move through this pandemic and whatever it brings to us personally, communally, and globally. May we continue to have hope and resilience and find whatever joy and meaning we can in these murky times. Be kind to one another, care about community, and be safe. This is for all of us. For people in parts of the world that are experiencing additional strife, Beirut that is rebuilding, the people of Scotland who recently experienced a tragedy. There are so many things going on in the world right now. This is a stone for everyone who is suffering in so many ways. For our country, as we move forward in this important election year, may we listen to one another. May we listen to understand rather than agree. And may we hold before us the principles and values we'd like to see in our society. Vote. For the children of this country who are either going back to school virtually or in person, we hold you in our hearts and care. We know this is a confusing and complicated time for you and for families. And we send you in your either virtual backpack or real backpack with our blessing, our love, and our light. For all the joys and sorrows that remain unspoken because they are either too tender or too private to share, let us remember that everyone is fighting their own private battle. We know not what it is, but because we're human, we know it to be true. So let us be kind, compassionate, flexible, and forgiving with one another. Starting next week in our service for August 23rd, 2020, we'll be including a new feature called Chime in which I will include some very brief Zoom recordings with all of you around a centering question like, what is sustaining you during this time? Or where are you finding some joy and lightness in the murkiness and darkness of this time? So I hope that you will reach out to me and then I'll reach out to you and we can arrange a very brief Zoom recording so you all can chime in. And joys and sorrows will be welcome also. So I look forward to that. Now let's enter into our quiet time like we do many weeks, all weeks pretty much. And close your eyes if you're comfortable with that. Put your feet on the floor and uncross your arms and put down whatever you might be holding and just breathe. 4 beats in through your nose and 5 or 6 beats out through your mouth, creating a steady stream, creating spaciousness in you, both physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Just breathe. Breathe in peace, breathe out love, breathe and allow. See how you can relax your body physically and create spaciousness beginning at the top of your head and moving down to where your feet are rooted on the ground. And just breathe. Sometimes our breath opens us up to more feeling and less thinking, which is a good thing during this time. So let's continue to breathe together. Blessed be.
Our reading this morning is by Reverend Leslie Takahashi from the book Voices from the Margin, edited by Reverend Jackie James and Reverend Mark D. Morrison Reed. And it's called Marginal Wisdom. They teach us to read in black and white. Truth is this, the rest, false. You are whole or broken. Who you love is acceptable or not. Life tells its truth in many hues, but we are taught to think in either or, to believe the teachings of Jesus or Buddha, to believe in human potential or a power beyond a single will. I am broken or I am powerful. Life embraces multiple truths, speaks of both and of and. We are taught to see in absolutes. Good versus evil, male versus female, old versus young, gay versus straight. Let us see the fractions, the spectrum, the margins. Let us open our hearts to the complexity of our worlds. Let us make our lives sanctuaries to nurture our many identities. The day is coming when all will know that the rainbow world is more gorgeous than monochrome, that a river of identities can ebb and flow over the static, stubborn rocks in its course, that the margins hold the center.
Some people look, some people stare, some people turn away, stumbling over words as if their tongue was in the way. Some people act as if their mind was made up anyway. Some people talk, some people shout, some people shut their mouth. Some people's ears are tuned out from living underground. Some people laugh, some people act as if they're looking down. Some walk in safety, that is if they ever walk at all. Some people see a world where life's fragile as their mind is small, living in big glass houses with their big glass walls. Oh, I'm not the thorn in your side, I'm not the break in your heart, I'm not the speck in your eye, I'm not the falling apart, I'm not the floor low, I'm not the ceiling. I'm not the fear, I'm not the fear, I'm not the feeling. Ooh. Ooh. people like to find a box that they can live inside. Some people never understand, some people never try. Some people's minds are just as narrow as the truth is wide. We all know some people stay, some people flee, some see the enemy. Some people find a solace in their ideology. Some people see a world encumbered by diversity. Oh, I'm not the thorn in your side, I'm not the break in your heart, I'm not the speck in your eye, I'm not the falling apart, I'm not the floor, no, I'm not the ceiling, I'm not the fear, I'm not the fear, I'm not the feeling. I'm not the thorn in your side, I'm not the break in your heart, I'm not the speck in your eye, I'm not the falling apart, I'm not the floor, no, I'm not the ceiling, I'm not the fear, I'm not the fear, I'm not the feeling.
Hello again, everyone. Thank you again for welcoming me into your virtual sanctuary this morning, and for the gift of getting to share this space today. Earlier, I named some of the ancestors and elders who made it possible for me to be here. It's important for me to tell you that I wouldn't be here without Unitarian Universalism either. My parents joined a UU church in a suburb of Milwaukee when I was 6. My dad is the son and grandson of Presbyterian ministers, and my mom was raised a devout atheist in small town Wisconsin. The family joke is that when they became UU, my dad's family all said, "Oh no, he's lost religion." And my mom's family all said, "Oh no, she's found religion." I think that says it all about this wonderful faith of ours. I'm so grateful that my parents joined my home church. It was a wonderful place to grow up. I gained an open-hearted curiosity for all the different religious paths and truths that people hold. I was taught to honor my own truth, even, or perhaps especially, when that truth was different than what was expected. I internalized the idea that living our faith meant working to make the world a better place and fighting for those who are oppressed. And as a queer and trans person, I was able to grow up without any sense that these deep truths about myself were at odds with my faith. My queer, trans, stubborn as heck teenage UU self was saved by Unitarian Universalism. As UU youth, we radicalized each other, exploring who we could be if we helped each other actively resist racism, heterosexism, and other oppressions. We created worship together in ways that were embodied and truly helped me feel the power of unconditional love. It was magic. In fact, I credit being raised UU to a large degree with my ability to be the person I am today. My full, authentic, queer, gender fluid, flamboyantly masculine and feminine all at one time, neither here nor there, Mary Martin as Peter Pan, bow tie flashing, motorcycle riding, roller derby playing, BOI boy self. And yet, even though I was raised here, in Unitarian Universalism, even though this religion has given me so much, I have never found a congregational home. You see, not actively making it harder for me to be myself in the world was not enough for me to feel a sense of unconditional welcome and belonging in my church as I grew into adulthood. Nor have I ever felt that way in any of the dozens of UU congregations I've been to since. I've never found a UU congregation where I felt like my lived experience of Unitarian Universalism as a queer, trans, raised UU was reflected and honored. I am one of the 72% of trans UUs who do not feel as though UU congregations are fully inclusive of us. 72%. My chosen family, my closest loved ones, include disabled trans people of color, and working class trans people. But only 20% of disabled trans UUs feel fully included in our congregations. Only 15% of trans UUs of color feel fully included. And only 11% of the most financially vulnerable trans UUs feel fully included. And this is no small thing because trans people and trans UUs are more likely to be disabled, people of color, and low income. My friends, my heart is heavy because I don't want to just find a home myself. I want Unitarian Universalism to be the saving power in my people's lives that I know it can be. I want to be able to tell Black trans women and struggling queer young adults and LGBTQ refugees and asylum seekers that they can go to their local UU congregation in person or online and find healing and strength and resilience to keep up the fight for survival in a culture that's trying to annihilate them. But I can't. Because I can't trust that their local congregation will even be safe for them, much less a place of resilience. Can you hold this heaviness with me? Whenever I share my story about how I've never found a home in Unitarian Universalism, there are always people listening who think, that's just because you haven't tried our church yet. So if that's you, I see you. And I deeply believe, I truly do, that this church, this wonderful community of yours, deeply wants to be a place where I and my chosen family feel welcome. Am I right? I wouldn't be here today if that weren't true. But I need you to help me hold my heavy heart at the fact that for the entire 30 years that I have been a UU, ever since my parents joined my home church when I was 6 in 1991, Unitarian Universalism has told the world and has told me that LGBTQ people are welcome here. But that entire time, I have experienced that welcome as conditional. My whole life, I've known that I could attend any UU congregation and not be actively rejected, as long as I wore certain clothes and said certain things and acted in a certain way. I've known that because I'm white and college educated and able-bodied, I can appear to fit in a way that so many of my people can't. I've known that because of this, people would be friendly to me. But that's not the welcome I need. I need a welcome that goes beyond friendliness, goes beyond tolerance or acceptance. I need a welcome that isn't conditional. I need a welcome that's celebratory, a welcome that transforms hearts, yours and mine. And here's the thing. I know I'm not the only one here who is yearning for this sort of welcome. I know I'm not the only one here who has felt the saving power of Unitarian Universalism to transform hearts, remind us of our interconnectedness, and support us in loving one another across lines of difference. I know I'm not the only one here who has felt the need to leave certain parts of yourself behind, who has felt pressured to look or talk or act in ways that make you appear to fit in order to feel welcome here. You see, I'm not just in the ministry of welcome for myself and my chosen family. I'm in it for you, all of you, because I know that in order to survive this world, this dominant US culture of division and hatred and violence and environmental destruction, we need spaces like this one to be more than simply friendly. We need spaces like this one to be places where we can unlearn the judgments and assumptions and biases that have soaked into us from the outside world and practice healing the divisions that are tearing our communities and our world and our very souls apart. My Unitarian Universalism is not a community where we are all the same and we get to relax on Sunday knowing that everyone else is just like us here, a collection of the good ones who have all the answers. My Unitarian Universalism is a community where we are all different, and we take joy in learning about each other and sharing in our different ways of making meaning, and we care for one another and one another's people, and we never stop asking questions. My Unitarian Universalism is a community where none of us feel like we have to leave any parts of ourselves behind. This is why my best friend, Reverend Michael Slack, and I created the course that this congregation has access to thanks to UU Justice Arizona. UU Jazz received a grant from the UU funding program that allowed them to purchase this course for you and every other congregation in Arizona, which is amazing. The course is called Trans Inclusion in Congregations, but it's about so much more than trans inclusion. For years, as trans UU leaders, Michael and I were asked to come teach UU congregations about trans people. People wanted to understand all the vocabulary. They wanted to learn what the right things to say were. They wanted to feel a sense of mastery over this new, unfamiliar terrain to them. And we got really tired. Because although as educators we love helping people understand things, going around doing Trans 101 trainings wasn't changing the things that keep us from finding a UU home. It was helping a lot of people feel like they intellectually understood trans people, but they still joyously sang songs about brothers and sisters and continued to misgender every single youth who came out as trans or non-binary within their congregation and didn't make any changes to their women's group or their annual men's retreat. Their welcome was still conditional on trans UUs looking a certain way, speaking a certain way, acting a certain way, and honestly, being willing to betray parts of ourselves in order to fit in. So we created a course that helps people really engage with the depth of what's required if we're serious about welcome. The course takes you on a journey, starting with the theological grounding for welcome, this denomination and your congregation's gender history, and your own experience of gender. We offer expansive frameworks for how to think about gender and sexuality, talk about the lived experiences of trans people of many different races, abilities, ages, classes, and sexualities, and discuss trans spirituality. The course ends with a conversation about culture, about the differences between understanding welcome as a superficial friendliness and understanding welcome as a spiritual practice and an invitation to transform your heart, and about how to shift the culture of your congregation to be radically welcoming to all who are currently here and who want to be here. I hope that if you haven't engaged with the course yet, you will, and that it helps you live into what it means to be a welcoming congregation in this moment. The course has 6 sessions, each of which includes a pre-recorded lecture from me and Michael, resources to take things deeper, and reflection and discussion questions. You can take it as an individual anytime, or you can experience it as a group, which is what we recommend. It's really easy to engage with in these times of physical distancing. Go to UUJazz, UUJAZ.org for more info. If it doesn't sit right with you, that despite all your best intentions, there are people who don't feel fully welcome here, people among you right now, and people like me and mine, the question is, what are you willing to do to change that? How can you resist the urge to already have all the answers and be willing to ask more questions, try new things, and transform your heart? You see, being a welcoming congregation is not a static identity any more than being an ally is. It's not a sign you can put up or a box you can check or a statement you can make that means every LGBTQ person coming into your virtual or physical space will feel welcome. Every queer youth, every bisexual Black person, every low-income trans person, every gay immigrant, every asexual, agender Asian American, every disabled lesbian elder. Because being a welcoming congregation isn't something you are, it's something you do. Because welcome is a verb, it's an action, it's a spiritual practice. So I hope I can count on you to join me in this practice, because it is truly one of the most holy, heart-transforming, and world-changing things that we can do together. Amen, Ashe, Aho, and blessed be.
Please join me in singing We Are a Gentle, Angry People. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are justice-seeking people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are justice-seeking people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives.
The spirit of generosity and gratitude flows through Beacon. And whether we are here in our sanctuary or we're in our virtual sanctuary on YouTube, we take an offering each week to support the work of our congregation and our community partners. You can make a secure donation online on our website, beaconuu.com, by finding the donate button and donating through the Vanco application. Or you can send an offering to us by check here at our Flagstaff address and write offering in the note. Either way, we so appreciate your support during this challenging time. And finally, when we are here together, we come into a large circle and we hold hands in order to say our benediction. We are Beacon Always Connected, even though we are not here in this room. So I invite you to envision us here holding hands in a circle and feel the power and warmth of this community. As we hear some closing words from Alex Kapitan. Blessed be, blessed we. Amen. Stay safe and well.
Our closing words come from Reverend Joe Cherry, also from the wonderful book Voices from the Margins, called Prayer for Living Intention. If we have any hope of transforming the world and changing ourselves, we must be bold enough to step into our discomfort, brave enough to be clumsy there, loving enough to forgive ourselves and others. May we, as a people of faith, be granted the strength to be so bold, so brave, and so loving. Go in peace.
I am not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna send a blood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come, and I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen, I make no apologies. This is me. I'm gonna send the blood, gonna drown them out. This is brave, this is bruised, this is who I'm meant to be. This is me.